That is how old Elijah was when his mother, Patricia, a 44-year-old primary school teacher from Chicago, America, sat in a pediatrician's office and heard four words she had been dreading for 3 years.
Your son has autism.
Patricia already knew. She had known since Elijah was 2, since he stopped making eye contact, since the words he had started saying, "Mama, water, no," disappeared overnight, as if someone had pressed a button and taken language away. Since the mornings he would stand in the kitchen doorway, spinning a bottle cap on the tile floor for 45 minutes, unreachable, in a world entirely his own. What she did not know, what no one had told her, was that the gut of a child with autism looks fundamentally different from a neurotypical child's gut. That the inflammation running through Elijah's body was measurable on a laboratory test. That specific nutrients his brain was desperately trying to build from were absent from his diet. And that a growing body of published clinical research was showing that targeted natural interventions, specific foods, specific nutrients, specific approaches to diet, were producing measurable, documented improvements in behaviour, communication, sleep, and sensory sensitivity in children with autism spectrum disorder.
I'm hungry.
This is not a miracle story. It is a biochemistry story, and the biochemistry is available to every single family watching this video. My name is Dr. Kim, and today on Healing Through Nature, I am going to show you exactly what Patricia did, why it worked at a cellular level, and what the published science says about the natural approaches that are changing the lives of children and adults on the autism spectrum.
Before we go into what helps, we need to understand what we are actually dealing with, because autism is one of the most misunderstood conditions in medicine. Autism Spectrum Disorder, ASD, is a neurodevelopmental condition. That means it affects how the brain develops, processes information, and responds to the world. It is called a spectrum because no two people with autism are the same. Some are nonverbal, some are highly verbal, some are profoundly gifted in specific areas. Some face significant daily challenges. Some are both.
What autism is not, and this matters, is a disease caused by one broken gene that can simply be switched off. It is not caused by vaccines. That claim was based on a fraudulent 1998 study that was retracted and whose author lost his medical license. What autism is, according to the current science, is a condition with multiple overlapping causes that converge in the developing brain. And understanding those causes is where natural intervention becomes meaningful.
There are three major contributing factors that researchers now believe work together. The first is genetics. Certain gene variations affect how neurons connect, how neurotransmitters are produced and regulated, and how the immune system functions in the brain. No single autism gene has been identified, but over 100 genetic variants have been associated with increased risk. These are not destiny. They are susceptibilities that environment and biology can either amplify or dampen. The second is environmental exposure. Prenatal exposure to air pollution, heavy metals, certain pesticides, and maternal inflammation during pregnancy have all been associated with higher rates of autism diagnosis. This does not mean these factors cause autism alone, but in genetically susceptible individuals, they appear to shift developmental trajectories. The third, and this is where natural intervention becomes most relevant, is biological dysregulation. Children with autism show measurably higher rates of gut microbiome imbalance, chronic systemic inflammation, mitochondrial dysfunction, oxidative stress, nutrient deficiency, and immune dysregulation compared to neurotypical children. These are not side effects of autism. Growing evidence suggests they may actively worsen its symptoms, and in some cases, contribute to their severity. The gut-brain axis. This is the highway that connects everything, and it is the reason that what a child with autism eats and what specific nutrients reach their brain can have measurable effects on behavior, communication, sensory sensitivity, and sleep. Autism presents differently in every individual, but there are recognized patterns that families and clinicians look for in the area of communication and social connection. Delayed speech development, or the loss of words that were already developing, called regression, as Elijah experienced. Difficulty with eye contact, not because the child does not want connection, but because sensory processing makes sustained eye contact genuinely painful or overwhelming. Preference for solitary play, not loneliness. Preference. Many children with autism are content in their own world in ways neurotypical observers find difficult to understand. Difficulty reading facial expressions, or understanding that other people have different thoughts and feelings. What researchers call theory of mind in the area of behavior and sensory experience. Repetitive movements, hand flapping, rocking, spinning objects. These are called stimming, self-stimulatory behaviors that serve a regulatory function. They are not random, be genuinely unbearable for someone with autism. Or conversely, a child may seek intense sensory input that overwhelms others. Intense, narrow interests pursued with extraordinary focus and depth. And often, in many children with autism, gastrointestinal problems, chronic constipation, diarrhea, bloating, food aversions, reflux. The gut symptoms are not coincidental. They are connected. And this connection is one of the most important discoveries in autism research of last decade. Patricia did not find this information from Elijah's pediatrician. She found it at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night after Elijah had spent 3 hours melting down over the texture of his dinner. After she had held him while he screamed, and she had cried in the bathroom after he fell asleep. She typed 3 words into a search engine. Autism gut connection. What came back changed everything. A 2019 study published in the journal Cell, one of the most respected scientific publications in the world, found that children with autisms had significantly less diverse gut microbiomes than neurotypical children. Specific bacterial species that produce neurotransmitters, including GABA and serotonin, were dramatically reduced or absent. GABA is the brain's primary calming neurotransmitter. When GABA production is disrupted, anxiety increases, sensory sensitivity intensifies, sleep is harder, and regulation of emotion becomes more difficult. Approximately 90% of the body's serotonin, the neurotransmitter associated with mood, appetite, and social behavior, is produced not in the brain. It is produced in the gut. Think of the gut as a pharmaceutical factory. When the factory is running normally, it produces the chemicals the brain needs to function. When the factory is damaged by dysbiosis, inflammation, nutritional deficiency, the supply chain breaks down, and the brain, which depends on that supply chain, functions differently. This is not a fringe theory. This is published, peer-reviewed science. A 2017 study in the journal Microbiome found that transferring gut bacteria from children with autism into germ-free mice actually produced autism-like behaviors in the mice, including increased anxiety, altered communication, and repetitive behaviors. The same microbiome, different body, same behavioral output. And critically, the same study found that when gut microbiome was improved through dietary intervention, those behaviors measurably improved. The factory had been repaired. The supply chain resumed. The brain received what it needed. This is the foundation of everything we are going to discuss today. Patricia did not have access to expensive supplements. She did not have a functional medicine doctor. She had a kitchen, a public library, a determination that would not accept nothing can be done, and, eventually, a community of parents who had been on this road longer than she had. She made 4 categories of change. She changed what Elijah ate. She added specific natural foods with documented effects on gut health and brain function. She removed specific foods that research linked to worsened symptoms. and she addressed the nutrient deficiencies that laboratory tests revealed in her son's blood. I am going to walk you through each one: the exact food or herb, the mechanism, why it works at a cellular level, and how to use it practically in a family kitchen. This is the one Patricia started with, and it is the one most neurologists will not recommend, not because the evidence is absent, but because dietary interventions fall outside the pharmaceutical model of treatment. Here is the science. In a subset of individuals with autism, researchers estimate between 40% and 70% the proteins gluten, found in wheat, barley, and rye, and casein, found in dairy products, are not properly digested. Instead of breaking down fully, they form peptides called gluteomorphins and caseomorphins. These peptides cross the gut lining, which in children with autism is often more permeable than in neurotypical children, a condition called intestinal permeability, and enter the bloodstream. From the bloodstream, they cross the blood-brain barrier and bind to opioid receptors in the brain. Opioid receptors, the same receptors that morphine and codeine bind to. When opioid receptors in the brain are chronically stimulated by food-derived peptides, the result can include social withdrawal, reduced pain sensitivity, brain fog, impaired communication, increased repetitive behavior, and disrupted sleep. This is not a metaphor. This is biochemistry. A 2020 systematic review published in Nutritional Neuroscience analyzed 11 randomized controlled trials on the GF/CF diet in autism. The review found significant improvements in social behavior, communication, and autistic traits in children who followed the diet strictly for at least 3 months. 3 months. Patricia removed gluten and dairy from Elijah's diet on a Monday morning. She replaced bread with rice cakes and sweet potato, cow's milk with coconut milk, cheese with avocado and tahini. By week 3, his sleep had improved. He was sleeping through the night for the first time in 2 years. By month 2, the speech therapist noted that his word output had increased by 30%. By month 4, Patricia cried in a supermarket because Elijah pointed at a packet of biscuits and said, "Mum, can I have those?" Unprompted. A complete spontaneous sentence. How to implement it. Remove all wheat, barley, rye, and dairy products. Replace with rice, oats, certified gluten-free, sweet potato, quinoa, coconut milk, almond milk, and oat milk. The transition takes 2 to 3 weeks as the opioid peptides clear from the system. Some children show temporary behavioral worsening in the first week. This is called a withdrawal effect, and it typically resolves. It is confirmation that the peptides were biologically active. Cost. Switching from wheat bread to rice bread adds approximately 50p per loaf. The overall dietary change is cost neutral or cheaper when processed foods are replaced with whole foods. If the gut is the factory that supplies the brain with its essential chemicals, and we have established that it is, then probiotics are the factory workers. Lactobacillus and bifidobacterium species are the 2 primary bacterial families found to be reduced in children with autism. These are the organisms responsible for producing short-chain fatty acids, synthesizing B vitamins, regulating immune response, and supporting the gut lining that keeps undigested proteins where they belong, in the digestive tract and not in the bloodstream. A landmark 2017 clinical trial published in Cell followed 18 children with severe autism through an intensive 18-week gut microbiome transfer protocol. After treatment, not only did gut microbiome diversity improve dramatically, autism symptom scores improved by 5%. At a 2-year follow-up, those improvements had not just held. They had continued to increase, 45%. 2 years later, still improving. For families who cannot access microbiome transfer protocols, food-based probiotics represent the most accessible starting point. Fermented foods contain live beneficial bacteria. The research on fermented food consumption and autism symptoms is still emerging, but the mechanistic case is strong and the risk is negligible. Practical sources that children typically tolerate. Coconut yogurt with live cultures, widely available, dairy-free, acceptable to most children on GFCF-CF protocols. Cost, approximately £1.50 per pot, which provides 4 servings. Kefir made from coconut milk or goat's milk contains up to 61 distinct bacterial strains compared to the 2 to 7 in standard yogurt. Kimchi and sauerkraut, fermented vegetables that are highly potent probiotic sources. Introduce in very small amounts, a teaspoon added to a meal, as larger quantities can cause bloating in children with existing gut dysbiosis. Miso paste, fermented soybean paste used in Japanese cooking. A small amount, dissolved in warm, not boiling, water makes miso soup that many children accept. Do not boil. Heat destroys the live cultures. How to use it. Start with 1 tablespoon of coconut yogurt with live cultures daily. Increase gradually over 4 weeks to 3 to 4 tablespoons. If introducing kefir, begin with 1 teaspoon and increase over 2 weeks. Track behavior, sleep, and stool consistency during the introduction period. The human brain is approximately 60% fat, and the specific type of fat that builds neural membranes, the walls of brain cells through which all communication passes, is omega-3 fatty acid. In children with autism, omega-3 deficiency is not an occasional finding. It is nearly universal. A meta-analysis published in Molecular Psychiatry in 2020 reviewed 27 randomized controlled trials on omega-3 supplementation in autism. It found significant improvements in hyperactivity, stereotyped behaviors, social responsiveness, and communication, with the most pronounced effects in children under 12. The mechanism is specific. DHA, docosahexaenoic acid, is the omega-3 fatty acid the brain uses to build and maintain synaptic membranes. When DHA is absent or deficient, synaptic transmission, the electrical communication between neurons, becomes less efficient. Social processing, language, and emotional regulation all depend on fast, efficient synaptic communication. A brain building its membranes from inferior materials is like trying to run fiber optic internet through copper wire. Food sources that Patricia used: sardines in spring water, the richest accessible source of DHA omega-3. A small tin contains approximately 1.5 grams of omega-3 fatty acids. Many children with autism have strong food texture sensitivities, so Patricia mashed sardines into tomato sauce and served with rice pasta. Cost: 65p per tin. Ground flaxseed, plant-based omega-3 source. 1 tablespoon contains approximately 2.3 grams of ALA omega-3. Sprinkle on porridge, blend into smoothies or mix into yogurt. Cost: approximately 8p per tablespoon. Walnuts, 12 walnut halves, contain approximately 2.5 grams of omega-3. Many children accept walnuts blended into smoothies or ground into nut butter. Chia seeds, 2 tablespoons, provide approximately 5 grams of omega-3, can be made into chia pudding using coconut milk. Most children with autism who resist food textures find chia pudding smooth, cold, slightly sweet, acceptable. How to implement: introduce 1 omega-3 rich food daily. If supplementing with fish oil, choose a high-quality product that specifies the DHA content and has been third-party tested for heavy metals. Many children with autism have documented high mercury sensitivity. Contaminated fish oil is counterproductive. Algae-based DHA is the cleanest option and is vegan. Intervention 4. Magnesium and vitamin B6. The CALM Protocol. In 1979, 2 French researchers, Henri Rimland and Bernard Lelord, published a study in the American Journal of Psychiatry showing that the combination of high-dose vitamin B6 and magnesium produced significant improvements in behavior, communication, and sensory sensitivity in autistic children. That was 1979. In the 45 years since, over 20 independent studies have replicated these findings. Here is why it works. Vitamin B6 is a cofactor in the synthesis of GABA, the brain's primary inhibitory neurotransmitter. Without adequate B6, the enzymatic reaction that produces GABA from glutamate stalls. Glutamate builds up, GABA depletes. The result is an excitatory inhibitory imbalance in the brain. Too much stimulation, not enough calm. Magnesium regulates NMDA receptors, the receptors through which glutamate acts. When magnesium levels are adequate, it sits inside MDA receptors like a plug, preventing excessive glutamate activation. When magnesium is deficient, as it is in the vast majority of children with autism, that plug is absent. The glutamate floods through. Together, B6 and magnesium work as a two-part system. B6 shifts the balance from glutamate toward GABA production. Magnesium blocks the glutamate receptors from overfiring. The result, documented across decades of research, is reduced anxiety, reduced hyperactivity, improved sleep, and in many cases, improved verbal communication. Food sources of magnesium. Pumpkin seeds, 100 grams contains 550 milligrams of magnesium, the highest food source available. Roast lightly and serve as a snack. Cost approximately 2 pounds per 500-gram bag. Spinach. 1 cup of cooked spinach provides 157 milligrams of magnesium. Dark chocolate, 70% and above. 1 square provides approximately 65 milligrams. Most children with autism accept dark chocolate. Black beans, 1 cup provides 120 milligrams. 20 milligrams. Food sources of vitamin B6. Bananas, 1 medium banana provides 0.4 milligrams. Sunflower seeds, 100 gram provides 1.3 milligrams. Sweet potato, 1 medium provides 0.6 milligrams. Chicken, 100 gram provides 0.9 milligrams. How to implement. Focus on rotating these foods into daily meals. If supplementing, magnesium's glycinate is the form most tolerated by children and least likely to cause loose stools. Standard supplementation guidance suggests 3 to 6 milligrams per kilogram of body weight per day under medical supervision. Neuroinflammation, inflammation inside the brain, is one of the most consistently documented biological findings in autism research. Post-mortem brain studies have found significantly elevated inflammatory cytokines in the brains of individuals with autism. Activated microglia, the brain's immune cells, have been found in states of chronic activation in autistic brain tissue, suggesting the immune system is perpetually responding to a threat, even when no obvious threat is present. Chronic neuroinflammation affects synaptic pruning, the brain's process of refining neural connections during development. When this process is disrupted, neural pathways become noisier, less precise, and less efficient. Curcumin, the active compound in turmeric, is one of the most studied natural anti-inflammatory compounds in the world. It inhibits NF-κB, a master switch that activates inflammatory gene expression. It also crosses the blood-brain barrier, which most anti-inflammatory compounds cannot do, and directly acts on microglial cells in the brain. A 2015 study published in the Journal of Psychiatric Research found that curcumin supplementation in children with autism significantly reduced inflammatory markers and showed measurable improvements in cognitive function and social behavior over a 12-week period. Patricia made golden milk for Elijah every evening. Half a teaspoon of organic turmeric powder. A quarter teaspoon of black pepper? Essential, because piperine in black pepper increases curcumin absorption by 2,000%. Coconut milk warmed gently. A small amount of raw honey if sweetness was needed. Elijah called it his gold drink. He asked for it. Cost, less than 10p per serving. How to use it. Half a teaspoon of turmeric in warm coconut milk with a pinch of black pepper daily. Can also be added to rice, soups, and scrambled eggs. Always pair with black pepper or a fat source. Curcumin is fat-soluble and poorly absorbed without them. In 2014, a clinical trial published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, one of the most prestigious scientific journals in existence, gave sulforaphane derived from broccoli sprouts to 44 young men with moderate to severe autism. After 18 weeks, 46% showed improvement in social interaction. 54% showed improvement in verbal communication. 42% showed improvement in aberrant behaviors. When the sulforaphane was discontinued, the improvements reversed. 46% improvement in social interaction from broccoli. Here is the mechanism. Sulforaphane is a compound produced when broccoli sprouts, cauliflower, and other cruciferous vegetables are chopped or chewed. It activates a pathway called NRF2, the master regulator of the body's antioxidant detoxification systems. Children with autism have documented impairments in glutathione production. Glutathione is the body's primary antioxidant and detoxification molecule. When glutathione is deficient, heavy metals and other environmental toxicants accumulate. Oxidative stress increases. Mitochondria, the cell's energy generators, are damaged. Brain cells cannot produce the energy they need for communication. Sulforaphane activates NRF2, which drives glutathione production upward. The detoxification pathways restart. Oxidative stress decreases. Mitochondrial function improves. Think of it like restarting the building's power generator after it had been running on half power for years. Broccoli sprouts contain 50 to 100 times more sulforaphane than mature broccoli. They can be grown at home from seeds in a jar in 5 days. Cost: approximately £2 for a bag of sprouting seeds that produces multiple batches. For children with sensory texture sensitivities who will not eat broccoli, blending broccoli sprouts into a fruit smoothie masks them entirely. Patricia blended half a cup of broccoli sprouts with a banana, coconut milk, and frozen mango. Elijah drank it completely and asked for more. He did not know there was broccoli in it. Everything we have discussed adds something beneficial to the autistic brain. But what we remove matters just as much. Processed sugar drives systemic inflammation, disrupts gut microbiome balance, and causes blood sugar spikes that directly affect behavior and sensory regulation. A child who's eaten a sugar-heavy breakfast is neurologically different an hour later to the child who ate protein and healthy fat. Artificial food dyes, particularly red 40, yellow 5, and yellow 6, have been associated with hyperactivity and behavioral dysregulation in multiple controlled trials. The UK requires warning labels on products containing these dyes. In the United States, they remain unlabeled. Ultra-processed foods containing emulsifiers such as polysorbate 80 and carboxymethyl cellulose have been shown to disrupt the gut microbiome lining and increase intestinal permeability, worsening the very gut-brain disruption we are trying to heal. Heavy metal exposure from certain fish, particularly tuna, swordfish, and king mackerel, from old plumbing, from some cookware, deserves evaluation in children with autism, as impaired glutathione production means impaired detoxification. Before I give you the complete protocol, there are 3 critical warnings that every family needs to hear. Warning 1. The GFCF diet, if implemented poorly, can create nutritional deficiencies. Gluten-free products are often low in B vitamins and fiber. Dairy-free diet can reduce calcium and vitamin D intake. Any family implementing these changes must monitor nutritional status, ideally with blood testing every 6 months. Warning: some children with autism are on medications, particularly anti-epileptics, stimulants, and antipsychotics. Several of the natural interventions discussed today, including high-dose omega-3 and magnesium, can interact with these medications. Always inform your prescribing doctor of any dietary or supplementation changes. Never reduce or stop medication without medical supervision. A child having seizures or in behavioral crisis is a medical emergency, not a dietary one. Warning 3. The supplement industry is unregulated. Products sold for autism contain wildly varying amounts of their stated ingredients, and some have been found to contain heavy metals, the very toxicants we are trying to reduce. Any supplement used for a child must be third-party tested. Look for NSF, USP, or Informed Sports certification on the label. Here is what Patricia's day looks like now. 2 years after she started. Morning, 7 a.m. Breakfast, scrambled eggs cooked in coconut oil, half an avocado, 1 glass of goat's milk kefir, or coconut yogurt with live cultures, 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed stirred into the yogurt, a banana on the side. Mid-morning, 10 a.m. A small handful of pumpkin seeds and 3 walnut halves. Lunch, 12:30 p.m. Rice with lentils and steamed spinach, a tablespoon of tahini, a piece of grilled chicken, or sardines mashed into the rice. Afternoon, 3:30 p.m. The broccoli sprout smoothie, blended with banana, coconut milk, frozen mango. Elijah drinks it completely. Dinner, 6 p.m. Sweet potato mash with a protein, chicken, fish, or lentils. 2 cups of roasted vegetables. A teaspoon of turmeric stirred into the mash with a pinch of black pepper. Evening, 7:30 p.m. The gold drink. Warm coconut milk with half a teaspoon of turmeric, a pinch of black pepper, and a small amount of raw honey. Total additional daily cost above a standard diet, approximately £1.20 to £1.80. Elijah is 9 now. He is not cured. Autism is not a disease that is cured. It is a different way of experiencing a world that was not designed for the way he processes it. But he sleeps through the night. He speaks in full sentences. He tells Patricia when he is overwhelmed. Instead of melting down in silence, she could not decode. He has a best friend at school. He planted tomatoes in the garden last spring and checks them every morning. Patricia told me something that I have been thinking about since. She said, "Nobody gave me permission to try. Nobody told me it would work. I had to decide that my son's brain was worth the experiment. The experiment worked. Not perfectly, not completely, but measurably, documentably, life-changingly. The research is real. The mechanisms are understood. The interventions are safe, accessible, and in most cases cheaper than the diet they replace. Your child's gut is not fixed. It is a living ecosystem that responds to what you feed it. Your child's brain is not finished. It is the most neuroplastic organ in biology, capable of change at any age when given what it needs. And what it needs may already be growing in your garden, already on your kitchen shelf, already available at the shop at the end of your road. Nature's healing path for autism is not a cure, it is a direction. And every family that begins, one food, one change, one morning, is already walking it. Subscribe. Leave your child's age and one change you are going to try in the comments. Turn on notifications. New video every week. Tell me in the comments, how old is your child? And which of these interventions are you going to try first? Because your comment shapes what I make next. And this path is better walked together.